This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Well, today on Conscious Conversations, we are talking about that there is many ways to view and connect to consciousness as there are people. And we're inviting you to step outside the hologram to expand your language in knowing-ness. And we have lots to say about that. And if you would like to join us in the conversation, we are live and you can call us at 1-844-390-TALK. And that's to talk with us directly.
Yeah, and we love to hear from people. So please feel free to join in. And we track pretty good, but it's always nice to have the personal input from everyone out there.
Well, yes, everyone actually is co-creating the show, whether you're listening right now in this present moment and it's live, or you're listening in the future. All our energies come together to create this moment.
And we say that because in consciousness, there is no time or space. It's all just happening simultaneously. And that's reality that we're in.
Instantaneously.
Instantaneously and spontaneously. Yeah, we just love
all the aimlessly. We do it aimlessly. We're that kind of girl. Right.
Definitely. So what do we want to let everybody know up on our events coming up, Joan?
Okay,
what do we got happening?
Here are some invitations to go deeper with us and connect with us beyond the show. Janet and I both have websites. I'll talk about mine first. My website is joan-newcomb.com. And you can go there to get a quiz that tells you how to find out what your life purpose is, who you essentially are, and what your life purpose is. You can also learn about my meetups. I do meetups around the Puget Sound in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place, and Olympia right now. And I do a monthly webinar. And also, if you want to work with me directly, I have some coaching programs, private mentorship programs, where you can rediscover your life purpose and regain your passion for life. And that's at joan-newcomb.com. And Janet, what about you?
Oh, let me see. You can reach me at janetandbeyond.com is my website. And if you sign up for one of the the blogs I write weekly, Joan write weekly, and to be part of what's happening, you can get a free 10 top tips that includes a lot more. You can also, I don't know. I also hold meetups and groups weekly here at my home in Portland, Oregon. And you can reach me about that at janetb@janetandbeyond.com or off of meetup.com, Conscious Conversations with Janet, and Consciousness Playground. And so we have people that come. We have just marvelous time. It's really a great way to keep on touch with the pulse of what's happening out there, because we all are in our lives and interacting with everyone. So consciousness is alive and well always, I can tell, with those groups. So, and I'm gonna back up with Joan here, do her passion quiz. You know, we are busy living our lives. We can get distracted from our center sense of self. And it never hurts to stop and take the time to go, am I doing what I want is possible in my life, and have my needs changed and my wants changed? And she got a great quiz there. So be sure and participate.
Yeah, and I might have left the planet briefly while you were talking. So did you also remind people how they can work with you and that you do phone and Skype sessions?
Yeah. No, I didn't say that. But yes, I do all that also. So you're more than welcome to get a hold of me. And, on my website, it'll tell you what a session is like with me, cause it might be a little different than what you're used to. And I don't do the reader, I guess is a term. I don't tell you.
You're not a reader, but
yeah,
you're a different kind of healer is what I would say.
Yeah, I'm a reframer. So I take your story and I look at the energy differently than you are. And so I'm a firm believer that we all know inside when we allow ourselves to be clear enough. And so, working with me is about just giving you different ways to get through that clutter so you hear what's there. So I enjoy working with people a great deal. So, please give me a call if that sounds interesting to you.
Yeah, sessions with you are transformative. That's
well, now with you too. So
yes. And there are also ways to connect with the show beyond the show. And we have a conscious conference call once a month. And the next one coming up this month is on Thursday, June the 16th. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific. And we connect by conference call so that we can have a small group of people who may not be able to get to these calls live, who might be shy about doing it or don't want to do it while they're at work. And in this small group, we have a conscious conversation, and it's a good way to have a direct question and answer with us as well, or just a direct conversation. And the way to find out about those is to email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, joan-newcomb.com. I have a page where you can sign up to get notified about those. And
well, I want to interrupt.
You just did. Go ahead.
I never do.
Never.
What's delightful about the free conference call
Yes.
is that if you are new to heart-centered awareness, if this is something you're kind of like, oh, well, that sounds kind of interesting, but I don't know what I'm doing, that's the place where we get into the nits and gritty of you and your experience and just walk you through it. And we all do it because it doesn't hurt any of us to go back to that place. And everybody's coming from a different perspective, and it's just this delightful unification, and that's the word we're going to use today a lot. Unifying experience, and we pull all that in, and with our different appreciations, and what is it to access heart-centered awareness? It's a glorious place to be. So we'll walk you through that really well there.
Yes. Now, a couple of other ways to just connect with us that aren't quite so up close and personal, but still a fun way to connect with us, is that we're on Facebook. The group is on Facebook at Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and you can join that and join the fun. Janet is on Facebook at Janet Barrett, and I'm on Facebook both at Joan Marjorie Newcomb, which is one page, or my fan page is Joan Newcomb. So there's lots of ways to connect with us, and you can also connect with us on Twitter at Joan and Janet, and I'm also at Twitter at Joan Newcomb. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube. So find us on YouTube at Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, because we have all of these shows put onto YouTube. You can just lie in bed and binge watch or binge listen to us on YouTube.
Well, and it's even more than that. It's binge sensory. Right? Because This isn't, you just don't hear this. You feel it. So you're working on lots of levels when you take the time to hang out with us, I think. So.
Yeah, and that's the unique thing about this show that I'm not aware of in any other radio show or any other kind of show is that, Janet, you do lead us into heart space, and the show is held in that unified consciousness for the entire time that we're having our conversation or we're interviewing guests. And so you can have a residual effect of it, even if you're not paying attention to it. You could have it going on in the background and you will feel the vibratory change in yourself.
Well, I think because we're building into this field reference that awareness is not important. It's helpful, right? But that it's okay to not notice that change can be happening when you're not paying attention and focused on it. That's important. We so embrace awareness. We realize the value of it, and it's also, okay, if I have to sit there and watch it, it changes. So, and whatever you focus on becomes more things. So we're just going to take the pressure off and just say, well, what if I didn't notice and change was happening anyway? So I think that's important.
Yeah, so it can be effortless.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about how we're all different and we're all okay with it. Right, Joan?
Exactly. Exactly. That there's lots of different ways to access consciousness, and your way is just fine.
Fine, whatever it might be.
So we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we'll be talking more about consciousness in a state of grace. And a quick reminder that if you do want to come and join us in the studio here, call in at 844-390-TALK, and you can join us directly in the conversation.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com. You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about the multitude of ways to access consciousness and also some unique perspectives that we have about this whole thing.
Yeah, what is being alive, right? Oh, and before I forget, because I almost did, I want to thank all those people that have been connecting with me on LinkedIn and friending me on Facebook these last couple of weeks, because they're coming in from all over the world, and it's just so marvelous. I've had people from Florida, and I'm I'm on the West Coast, so Canada, lots of people from Canada, Britain, Australia, India. Those are pretty much the main areas, and I just love that sense of connection. I'm doing my best to keep up and say thank you to each one of them individually. So, I appreciate it all very much. Thank you. So, and that's part of what this is about, unified consciousness. Don't you think, Joan? Look at all those different people that find connection and want to be connected. I think that's neat. They want to be connected. So, I appreciate that.
And this is what is going on is we're having an acceleration of consciousness. We're having a heightened awareness. Technology is always trying to replicate consciousness. So technology got created so that we could all be instantaneously connected, both through a medium like this, but also through an interactive medium such as Twitter or Facebook or something like that, where we can all have our voices heard. It's just part of the evolution we've been going through and the expanded awareness that we're having. And what you're describing, this delight that you're having being connected with everybody, is exactly the delight that consciousness has in playing with itself.
And each one of these people is consciousness. And each one of them is experiencing consciousness and expressing it in their own unique way. And at heart, we're all consciousness. It's a unified consciousness. And
yeah, we are all, how I'd say, we are all consciousness.
yeah.
And we are, as consciousness, we are all creating a reality down to the smallest detail. And within that, we have the perception, the experience of different individuals, and each one of us at this level is real. So Janet, you are unique and you are real and you are as different from me as night and day. And, and we're having very real experiences in this experience, in this world. And each of us can have also the experience of creating this reality down to the smallest detail, and we can have shifts in that as well.
And we co-create, we share in those realities often. And that's,
yeah, well, the concept of co-creation is at a certain aspect of perception. So, you know, we kind of jumped over the part that everybody, there are as many different ways to connect to consciousness as there are human beings on the planet. And that there is no good, bad, right, wrong, better, worse experience of connecting to consciousness. It's what works for you at the time. So for instance, my husband's Tibetan Buddhist, and he has a very precise practice where, you know, he gets up at 4:45 in the morning, goes up and he has a whole prescription of prayers that he does, and he pours water and he does all these different things, lights candles or whatever, and that creates an energetic focus for him, and that is very potent and has, you know, really enhanced his reality. I couldn't do that. That would drive me crazy. I'd be running, screaming down the hall like a little kid. I have to be more in the moment with mine, more spontaneous. Now, mind you, I had a very rigid practice when I was younger and would spend up to 2 hours of meditation every day. I can't do that. I'm having a different experience of reality, and everybody's way of doing this is quote
unique
unquote right for them and unique for them, and is a valid experience in this reality.
And there's no right or wrong.
Right.
There's no judgment in consciousness.
Right. No.
So we're the ones who are holding that. And so, there's just, the word comes to mind is gloriousness of the variety that, you know, we're lucky when we have because we do have commonality. But that we can express ourselves, and I don't know if that's just the sense of democracy it comes from being in the United States or those traditions, because maybe people in other countries haven't had that. You know, they've had to practice certain ways or in certain dogmas, or, you know, the whole thing about personal freedoms and stuff. That there are.
Well, you know,
lots of ways.
I'm jumping in on something you said prior to getting to the other countries, and I might jump in on the other countries in a second. But if you are perceiving something as right and wrong, or better or less than, that is the perception of being in this physical realm where there are measurements like that. And, you know, emotional factors of, you know, mine is better than yours. You know, my God is better than your God. My rules are better than my country is. And all of that is, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's unconscious. I tend to describe it as operating on a body personality level with things. And the way I know that I am operating from consciousness is that I have this sense of expansive neutrality with it all. And it's all, and a level of bemusement or amusement, that it's all a fun game that as consciousness I'm creating here. Do you want to take us into heart space so that we can have a feeling experience of this?
Oh, right. Yeah, where was that? All right, everybody. So let's maybe take the moment, create the moment, allow for the moment to just shift to that place where this isn't about mind, and our conversation is not coming out of mind. It's always coming out of heart. And let's be intentional about that. So what it would be like to just let go of whatever and wherever and whatever time you're in, and just that place of awareness within you that can follow along. Let's celebrate that. And we're just going to take a little tour to what we call the center core essence of all. We're using the word heart, and that's going to give you a sense of placement. But depending upon what your traditions are and how you've learned to access or not access awareness, we call it heart-centered awareness because everybody knows where the heart is, but it's not just your heart. So we'll explain that. So just allow yourself to relax. Feel the shoulders, relax. So shrug them up, shrug them down. Shrug them up and just let yourself unwind. And notice your heartbeat. You have one there. Be appreciative. It's telling you that you're physically alive. And just bring awareness there. And then the second meaning of heart is emotional reference. So this is the one that kind of people get all confused about, and language can trigger and all that stuff. So we're just coming from a very neutral place, and we're just observing that we are emotional creatures. And don't allow that word to beat yourself up with. Just suspend that for a little bit. And what it's like to be an emotional creature, of whatever level of awareness you hold of that. And just notice. Notice colors, notice what you think about, notice you have more than one emotion running, all of it. It's just fine. Don't judge it. So just allow yourself. There you go. And then we move into the third meaning of heart, core essence of all. This is the center of consciousness within you. This is the field of unified consciousness. This is where you and I are one. This is what we share. So this is where the bits and pieces of beingness are. So it's kind of like particles out there, right? So we've got light photons. We have biophotons that have a little bit of matter. We have resonances and vibrations and information. And information is usually our stories and how we connect all that. And then you'll see that there's patterns, that everything you are is about perceptual biases, and consciousness is working as you, through you, in those perceptual biases. So all of that is subject to change and interpretation and is not what you think it is. So from this place, we just notice. And the word notice is about, well, if you could really be open to awareness, what would that be like? So this is where we have that. This is where your authentic voice is going to come out of. Not how you think about things from a state of mindset, but how you think about things from experiencing authentic you without all the rational and reasoning on top of it. A place where you know and you don't know how you know. A place where we're all one. So just allow yourself that awareness. This is where we hold these conversations from. And that airspace that might not have any verbalization, vocal verbalization, you can feel is full of life, full of information. And it's out of that quiet, the sacred can be heard. And that's your experience of consciousness. There we go. That feels good, Joan. How you doing?
Yeah, that does. I can hear the clarity in it.
This is what we want all our listeners to see. It doesn't matter how we all look and seem and experience, etc. It's this place that we're talking about where consciousness is, our awareness of consciousness in our limited view awareness, because it is much bigger than anything we could articulate. And whether you see an angel or you talk to trees or whatever, that's it. Those are just ways to interface.
Well, one of the things I always notice is that when we come into heart space, I suddenly don't have anything to talk about because because it just takes us into that expansion, and suddenly there isn't any of those limits. Though you did bring up a good thing about how different people do access consciousness and interact with consciousness. And so I have known people who were basically atheists, but they feel compelled to climb mountains. And I could see in that is that that's where they really got in touch with the core essence of who they are when they're hanging off the side of a mountain and they're in the midst of this magnificence of nature. And so a lot of people feel more connected when they're out in nature, and it's really because it allows them to get quiet in a certain way.
Well, I think, what you're so vividly bringing to mind is that I would say, we all are hearing the clatter, the conversations of your neighbors. And there is something in probably physically removing yourself that helps create this illusion that it's quiet, right? But as you and I have done in this work, and for those that do this kind of work, we understand that that's all from within. And our physical ability to tune sound in and out and feel in and out and all that is, it's just easier sometimes when you remove yourself physically. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're talking about accessing angels, and there's a whole different descriptions of hierarchies of non-physical beings, and so for me, all of that is still part of the creation of consciousness. Some people create things in nature that show up that give them a reminder of consciousness, like, ladybugs are like a reminder of, like a little hello from spirit, so to speak. So there's all different languages to describe that as well. And I view all of that within what I would describe as the hologram, and the hologram is reality created by consciousness.
It's our sense of self?
Well, that reality...
Explain more. Give us more.
Yeah, exactly. So reality is created by consciousness, and we are creating our reality as consciousness, down to the smallest detail. And it feels very real because that's what we've created. We've created a physical body to have these feeling sensations. And on top of that, we've also created non-physical experiences out of that as well. But I would say that everything within this, including the storyline that there are non-physical beings, and the experience that there are non-physical beings, including the planets and asteroids and aliens and reptilian, blah blah blah. All of that is still within the hologram, and the true essence of who we are is outside the hologram.
Yeah, and so I hold that discussion, and I don't know if, cause this is what I'm just, tracking for myself right now, is that, there was the all before there was me. There was consciousness before there was me. And so consciousness decided, okay, let's see what this will be like. And conception happens on a physical level, and I come into awareness. And consciousness is still there in the center essence of me. Our traditions from this perspective are usually that consciousness is outside of us. And what we're looking to bring our listeners and ourselves more aware of is, no, we are consciousness to begin with. And then we formed and we developed a matrix of information. And at core essence, in between every little cell, is consciousness, and every cell is consciousness. It's what holds us together. And that's the hologram in action. And that immediately connects me to everything all at once. That there is just this perceptual alignment that's me, and that it's bringing me more back to that awareness that that's the truth of me, is what life has been about.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it was interesting. It was interesting because I got stuck on your language at the very beginning that consciousness was before me. Yeah. And though I can understand, it took me all the way through that to understand. Wait. So I am consciousness. And before there was the personality that I identify with me, I am consciousness. Mm-hmm. And I guess the other thing that I have come to fully understand, to fully grok, is that as consciousness, all of this is happening instantaneously, simultaneously, spontaneously. Every aspect of it, including past lives, future lives, parallel lives. It is that complex a video game. So if you imagine that you are playing some kind of online game with everybody around the world as players, as users and players and all, you are not only the individual there with the with your thumb on the buttons playing that particular personality. You're not only that, you are also all of that. You are also the designer and the creator of it as well. And at that highest level, you are experiencing it all as consciousness, all the multiple lifetimes too. So if you think about when you're playing an online game, you can play it infinite amount of times and never have the same experience twice, even if you're playing the same character. So it's every day is a Groundhog Day for you and all the other aspects. It's that infinitely complex, infinitely diverse, and within that, you do have free will. The predetermination may be the design of the game or whatever, but you have the free will to shift your experience from parallel lives to other parallel lives. And when you start operating with that consciousness, when you shift your mindset to having that awareness, you start having that awareness. You start getting the feeling that as you're walking across the parking lot to the grocery store, you feel like you're in a movie set. You feel like it's totally lost the title of the Jim Carrey movie, but you're having that kind of experience, and that's just you tuning into it as consciousness.
I don't think I hold. Okay, because maybe that the labels work a little differently. I hold that consciousness is about a spectrum. It allows for all. And when I am allowing for all, doesn't matter what the parameters of physicality have set up, and the labels and the way I interact and people interact. When I allow for all, then all is allowable. And there is no judgment in that. There are only choices I get to make in response to what I am involved with in my world. And that's my game. That's my setup. And you may have a different setup. We all have different setups. We are the designers of how we choose to interact in our lives. And being true to oneself, last night in group, what comes up is people want clarity. They want to know who they are. They want to know who they are when they are aware of themselves, how much they relate to other people. And we can call those, all different definitions can come into play. But when you share rapport and you understand that you're sharing rapport, and some people may say empathic, Depends upon the traditions that their language is coming out of. When you understand that you interact with people on an unseen level and can track and can be aware and not aware and be affected, they're so aware of how they have not heard themselves. They're aware that they've set up all this clamoring in order to not listen because whatever the circumstances were, it was not safe, appropriate, whatever, to be able to connect to themselves that way. But when we break it down, there it is. They do know what they want to do. They do know who they are. And it is just marvelously expanding to share that, because when I'm with someone who's in that state, I'm in that state. And so no matter what your framework is, you can speak your truth and you can hear your truth. You just have to know that it's okay that you do.
Well, you know, I was also thinking within all of that is if you view this as a movie, there are no small parts. Mm-hmm. And, you know, from an acting standpoint, it's actually more fun to have a character part. Or, you know, when I was in community theater, I would do multiple roles, you know, because, you know, they never had enough men. So one of my roles would be male role. And I would, you know, be on stage and then I'd run off and change costumes and come back on stage as someone else. And so there's an infinite amount of ways to play this game, and you might be experiencing, something that feels less powerful and feels like you have less choice and determination in it. And as consciousness, you are infinitely powerful. And we are all infinitely powerful. And from that awareness that everyone's capable being, everyone's infinitely powerful, and it doesn't matter if you are, you know, 17 and still haven't got your driver's license, you're infinitely powerful at creating your reality. And you are having, as consciousness, having a whale of an experience, you know, living in that experience.
Well, I think that's that is that setup, is that the sense of power is going in maintaining the illusion that one is not powerful. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, oh, look how powerful I am. You know, I mean, it's, oh, just feel that. Just feel that, everybody. There's just this relaxing going on there.
When you're in touch with your internal power, you don't have a desire to control outside yourself. You don't have a desire to have power over or dominate over, because that is actually, you know, that's just part of the game.
That's an egotistical place.
Right. That's I would say body personality level of playing the game. Whereas when you relax into your awareness of yourself as consciousness, it is truly the empowered state. And you can shift your reality you don't have to go out there and change, fix, or manipulate the hologram. You don't have to move the sets around or direct the actors. You just shift yourself into a new state of being, and the reality changes.
Okay. That's good. I was going someplace. I don't know where I went in my awareness, but okay, I think I'm here again. Yeah. Sometimes it's just about observing. It's not about having to do something or fix or heal or any of those things. And how we interact, and we use the term co-create, how we choose to have a moment, how, you know, we choose to have this moment in our awareness could be different from our next moment of awareness. a lot this week has come up about alternate realities and parallel lives and how we can move in and out of those so quickly we don't even know we are, and the people we're interacting with then must also be in a parallel or alternate reality, and they may not hold any awareness of it. So it's well, okay, so get me back to where I need to be, Joan. I don't know, how are we doing on our time?
Lost
all sense of it.
Wait, we've got a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I have to say that the thing that sort of popped into my head was the sense of magic. And, a lot of people are, excited about the possibility of magic. And I would say that when you shift your perspective to operating and navigating your life as consciousness, that's when the magic happens.
And magic is a word we use to describe something we have no framework for. Right? I mean, it's something that, how did that happen? It's because it's outside of how we perceive information floating around. And so there may be other words, but we're going to say we live magical lives because the magician always knows how the game is going. He knows the setup, and he is the creator. He's the demonstrator. And we, the audience, go, whoa, how did he do that? Well, he knows how he did it.
Right. And as consciousness, we are the creators, or we are the magicians. And that aspect of magic is what's coming from outside the box. And on that note, we're going to do a little bit of technical magic here because we need to go for a commercial break. But stay tuned. Hold that sense of heartbreak. Erase that. Hold that sense of heart space as we go for a commercial break. And we'll talk more about consciousness in a state of grace. And we'll be right back.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. We're along here with Janet, and we've been talking about our experiences as consciousness, and that there's an infinite amount of ways to do that. And then we were shifting into, if you start experiencing the world as consciousness and navigating the world as consciousness, magic happens. Weird things happen too, like time changes on you and shifts on you. I know somebody who has this app on her phone to track when the new moon is, and she checked it 3 times during the week, and they gave a different date for the new moon. Now, when she was talking to us, it's like, well, yeah, the new moon's on June 4th, but it was 3 different dates in her reality to that moment. Well,
and in my reality and just what we were doing, I seem to have gained 3 or 4 minutes. So, because I'm watching my stopwatch, and I'm like, okay, so we can sometimes only in hindsight, and if we're lucky, hindsight is in the next moment, can we be aware that something has shifted? And when consciousness is about expansiveness, it isn't about time. So your sense of time and placement change. And that's what I'm in the space of doing. So okay, where am I? I had the sense that I didn't know where I was, and that's just fine. Unfortunate when you're on a radio show and you have a certain amount of time to work with it.
Right.
But
the container. Yeah.
the container. And so in just noticing that, and how many listeners did the same thing.
Or had similar, they were matching you instead of me.
Or I'm tracking them. And that could be, in that state, I'm really not aware of where I am in that state to observe or be the who's doing what. And that's actually unification. That is, there is no difference. It doesn't matter which is affecting which. It's just that you are.
Well, it's all you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You are creating it as consciousness.
Yeah.
And so, you're even saying that you're matching the listeners is a different perspective. And when you're playing as consciousness, you can do stuff like stretch and shrink time. Mm-hmm. And you don't necessarily have a desire to stretch and shrink time because you're also having the delightful experience of just being in it. And then you notice weird stuff happens, like time shrinks or stretches. We know somebody who had this experience when she shifted into this perspective where she would think about getting a cup of tea and go into the kitchen and it was already made. Or I remember somebody who decided that they went to take a bath and they sat in the bath and they wanted to get to bed by midnight.
Yeah.
But it was only like 11:50, and so but they went into the bathtub and they sat in the bathtub and they kind of lost track, and they know that they filled up the bathtub with hot water several times. And then when they got out of the bath and dried off and came out, all the clocks still said 11:50.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff happens. And you can't say that it's not reality because that water felt hot.
Yeah.
The tea was great,
And the water, and the term we're going to use is magical, right? That was a magical.
Well, that's a term of it is magical of it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't invalidate this reality, but you become aware that it is more flexible than you suspect. And the outcome. So the other thing I know is between the physical symptoms and the test and the diagnosis, you have an infinite amount of potential within all that. I went through a physical experience years ago where they suspected cancer. So there was, I'm having these symptoms, it could be cancer. And then, I created a different result from the test. Mm-hmm. And then they only had one, had to be surgery. And that's where I went via John of God. And when it was like, F you, Western medicine. And I healed it holistically, and I've not ever had surgery. So, we can each, and then for some people having surgery is part of the experience, because part of the experience is learning how to let other people give to you, and maybe being flat on your back and being fed delicious hospital food is part of the experience.
And we don't always know that at the time. When we're in that, we don't always know that, but if you're holding that you're okay, and if you're holding in the reality that
it's all okay,
then it's all okay.
Yes.
And so if it disappears, it disappears. If it doesn't, then it leads you to the next place. That's okay. That's, if you take it out of the judgment place, the little person place here, and you understand that as consciousness, you were enjoying that experience. And once again, when I view it from the little place, I'm like, there's no enjoyment and all that. And it's like, oh no, consciousness is having a good time.
And whether you keep this body, you don't keep this body, because from this perspective of consciousness, you have infinite bodies. And actually, whether this body stops existing in this moment, you have parallel lives that keep going on until you're 100. So isn't this a fun game?
It is. So much and so fun. Everyone, we're going to leave, we're going to leave you in heart space. We're going to leave you in this heart space.
Throughout your day. You're going to be like the guy from Office Space in the Hawaiian shirt. We're going to go talk about the Bobs.
So let's see, and let us know. Write us. Let us know how the state holds for you, and what's different showing up in your life. And just do that with Conscious with Joan and Janet at gmail.com. Just send us a little note and say, yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's still working. Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a letter.
What the heck are you girls talking about?
Yeah. Or those comments
we'll
are
take
great
those
too.
comments too, yes.
That's right. They're great.
It gives a feeling of the pulse. Well, we want to let folks know what we're talking about next week.
Okay, what is it?
Well, next week, the calendar says it's the 15th, and in our creation, it's going to be the solstice on the 20th, and a lot of people assign a lot, and it's also going to be a full moon. People assign a lot of meaning, and there are vibrational experiences in the design of the hologram. There are a lot of vibrational experiences, and so the solstice can mean stuff. We create portals and cycles of change, astrological cycles, nature cycles. They're all energetically components of this holographic reality, so we can choose to use them as consciousness to manifest transformation. It's all just part of the fun of playing as consciousness in physical reality. So we'll be talking more about that next week.
It totally sounds like good vibes to me.
Yeah.
It's all good vibes. It's about being alive. Well, yeah.
Being
And there
alive.
are forces at play. There are dynamics out there that that bring information this way or that way, or through you, or up and down, and it's just how you want to navigate, because of where they are in your setup of how life is about.
Yeah. Well, let's tell people how they can go deeper with us, ways to connect with us beyond the show.
Okay. That free conference call once a month, Thursday evenings. Great place to develop your awareness of what we're talking about, what you already know and can outstrip us. But join us. And I don't have that date.
Okay, so at the bottom of our script today, it says conference call on Thursday, June 16th at 7 p.m. And if you want to register for the call, email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, which is joan-newcomb.com. And in terms of the show, we love hearing from you. You can join us on Facebook. Go to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet and join the group and join the fun. You can follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can follow me on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. You can also follow me on Facebook. Joan Newcomb is my fan page. Joan Marjorie Newcomb is my regular page. Janet's Facebook page is Janet Barrett. My website is joan-newcomb.com. You can go there to get a quiz to discover who you truly are and what your life purpose is. You can find out about my meetups. I do face-to-face meetups all around the Puget Sound from Seattle to Olympia. And you can also work with me in rediscovering who you are and what your purpose is and your passion. And Janet, your website is? janetandbeyond.com. And there's all kinds of interesting things there. And I loved to work with clients all the time also. So we do that over phone or computer or however it is that we can be connected. So I look forward to hearing from you, and we want to thank you all for another wonderful. And we still have a couple minutes, and I forgot to tell people about YouTube. So you can also binge watch us on YouTube. And I completely forgot to let people know that I have a YouTube channel as well. And if you go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, you'll see my Mystic Minutes that I have tons and tons of them that give actually lots of information, and some of them actually teach techniques on navigating your life as consciousness.
You know, I think it's important for people to be able to hear themselves, to be able to have a place where they are in their truth. And sometimes it's when you're sitting in the bathroom and are otherwise occupied, because that may be where you get your private time. And just, what if you didn't have to judge yourself? What if you held compassion for yourself like you can hold for others? And just, that seems to be so important and seems to be missing a lot. I'm just conscious of groups and what's been going on out there. Lots of things are happening in the expansive sense of consciousness, which is exciting and exhilarating, and also can drag you through the mud sometimes. And
Well, and my measurement is that if you are judging, whether you're judging yourself or you're judging others, then you're not connected to yourself as consciousness.
Right.
And that's just lets you know where is your perspective? Are you viewing life outside from your navel or not? Or if you're viewing it from heart space, or you're viewing it from beyond your intellect, beyond your mind. Your mind loves to measure things, but as consciousness, the feeling is expansive. The feeling is neutral and amused and delicious, delightful, and just a lot of fun.
Just check in. Just check in.
So just want to let folks know you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And it's been delightful to spend time with you today.
Yeah, thank you all for joining me.
Or evening or afternoon, wherever you are listening to this.
There is no time or space as consciousness. You are creating this in the moment with us, whether you're listening to it live or in the future. We'd like to thank you all for joining us as Consciousness Expressing and Evolving.
Enjoy.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.